And we are live. Welcome to the Sports Sesh podcast. I'm your host, Mason Atwell, and my co-host is James Evans. And today we've got the first episode of 2021. And by some of the people I've been speaking to, 2021 is going to be a good year for the podcast. How are you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Obviously, relaxed after that little Christmas break we had in between. So it's nice to be back talking all things sports with you. So how about yourself, mate?
I'm doing well. Obviously, it's been a busy period in terms of sports. So with it just being us two today, we've got plenty to talk about: UFC, boxing, football. I'm going to jump straight into it. The Carabao Cup semi-finals last night. Obviously, my team United was in there, lost against City. But usually with a derby, I hate losing. I hated the loss anyway. But City deserved that game. We just didn't turn up. Some of the players, obviously, they tried, but it just weren't good enough on the night. Like Bruno, everyone was expecting Bruno to be the magic touch for United, and although he has been throughout the season, I've seen a lot of fans were expecting him to do it consistently for 38 games a season and more. But you can't expect one player to carry the full team. And when we've had some of the strikers out, like obviously Cavani was out through suspension, so he weren't able to play. I don't think I didn't have too many hopes. Just thought if we were going to lose, at least lose going all out. But we just it weren't even a masterclass. It wasn't the best of games, but City got the goals and fair play to him. And obviously the other game, Tottenham and Brentford, I believe, Tottenham got it done 2-0, quite easy forward. What did you make of the two semi-finals?
I think with the City game, I think Roy Keane rightly pointed out with Bruno Fernandes. I mean, he said something along the lines of, obviously, we talk about the big game, score for big players. There was comparisons between Bruno Fernandes and Eric Cantona in recent times, and I think Roy was very, very negative of Bruno Fernandes' performance last night. And obviously, I totally agree. Carabao Cup or Champions League, you've still got to turn up for these big moments. And you rightly pointed out there, it's the whole team as well overall. But you want to be looking in a sort of an even game, a dead even game. Like I said, these big moments call for these big players, and unfortunately, Bruno Fernandes didn't step up to the plate. And to be honest, neither did the whole Manchester United team. I was very disappointed in watching them last night, and fair play to City, because a lot of the times this season, so many people have written them off, wondering, is this sort of Pep's time to go? How are they going to sort of cope for the rest of the season? They started off pretty slowly, but now they're sort of picking things up a bit, and their best performance of the season was against us. I mean, they completely outclassed us. And again, with yesterday, with the fixture against United, they sort of showed that they're back in a way. And it's crazy to say that, because they've got 7 or 8 players out through COVID, and to still be putting in those top class performances, it's a scary sight for the rest of the Premier League, to be honest with you. And I'm not surprised. They always find a way to get it done. There's always a Pep masterclass in there somewhere. And I've been very impressed with John Stones recently. I saw a stat whereby they've only conceded 1 goal in the 7-8 games that he and Ruben Diaz have played together. So he's literally come out of nowhere. And it's not only is it a boost for Manchester City, it's a boost for England, because if he can force his way back into that England team for the ahead of the Euros, I genuinely can see him starting. It's a breath of fresh air, and I'm sure John Stones is riding a lot of confidence right now. And I genuinely believe that the good old City is back. And with the Tottenham game, I saw their starting lineup. I saw who they went with. It's a strong lineup. Mourinho in the past, he does tend to take these competitions seriously. I think he's won it. He's won it with Chelsea. I think he's won it with United as well. Maybe, I don't know, but
he won it first season.
Yeah, exactly. So he tends to take the Carabao Cup pretty seriously. Again, strong side on Tuesday. You look at Brentford, they're no walk in the park. They've done very well this season. They've lost Said Benrahma to West Ham, and they're still performing. They're thereabouts in the playoffs. So it wasn't going to be an easy test, but Tottenham obviously got it done, which has all the ingredients to be a great final. Pep Guardiola versus Jose Mourinho, the old rivalry resumes.
100%. As you mentioned about John Stones before, it sounds bad, but I wish he didn't perform last night, obviously being a United fan, but I was really impressed with his performance. Obviously, they kept the clean sheet and he got a goal, and I don't think the City fans could have asked much more on the night, and obviously that's a bonus for England as well if he can push through and get back into the teams, because obviously we've got the Euros to look forward to this year. If they go ahead, touch wood, due to restrictions, if they go ahead. But even if they don't, he's still going to be pushing them, like making a push for that England squad again. And I think, as you mentioned, the final as well, the old Jose and Pep rivalry continues. I'm really looking forward to this final. I'm gonna be watching it for sure. And I don't know. I think this is definitely Tottenham's best chance of winning a trophy in a long time. Obviously, the Champions League final they had a couple of years ago with Liverpool. No disrespect to him, but that was probably, alongside last year, that was Liverpool's best team in the past 10 years. And I don't think many people gave Tottenham too much of a chance in that. But depending how City turn up, Spurs have a real chance of getting their hands on a bit of silver.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, from a Chelsea fan, nobody wants Jose Mourinho to lift a trophy in a Tottenham jacket. I mean, I just cannot stand the sight. But, on their day, if Son and Harry Kane turn up, they'll win any football match regardless. It's going to be a tough one, to say the least. It's a tough one to call. It really, really is, because, Pep's always got something up his sleeve, but so does Mourinho. I mean, they had the edge over Pep's Manchester City at the start of the season, or some point in the season. I think they won 2-0 at the Lane. So that's certainly going to play on Pep's mind going into the Carabao Cup final. Jose Mourinho's already got one over him this season. And you've got to give Pep Guardiola some sort of respect, because he put a strong team out as well yesterday. He takes these things seriously. And in a way, the Carabao Cup, I know everyone talks about, it's the Mickey Mouse Trophy and all that, but if you're challenging for the Premier League title, the Carabao Cup is a good sort of stepping stone in competing for the rest of the season, because it's a good momentum booster. You've won at Wembley, you've won the first trophy of the season, and that's going to give you, that's going to boost your confidence sky high. And I can see, I'm going to go for a City win in that one. I mean, on any day, I know you talk about Harry Kane and Heung-min Son can assist each other, they can score so many goals, but I just think City are going to be too strong for them. And then by the time that fixture comes around, they'll have everyone back Manchester City, and they're sort of starting to come together well at the right time, Manchester City. And if they can win the Carabao Cup, and they're going to, it depends on where they're at, both teams are at coming into the fixture. If both teams are riding good form, it adds to the excitement. But if one's sort of slipping off and having that blip, then it only favours the other side. But again, anything can happen on the day. But I think City will just squeak it.
100%. I think I agree with you. I don't know about Spurs, because obviously, like we say, if Harry Kane and Heung-min Son both turn up on the day, they've got the ability to score past any goalkeeper. But if they turn up, is the question. I don't know, because obviously they've not had too many experiences of being in a final together, the whole squad. So for a lot of them, it will be the first time being in a final as a team. But if they can use it to their advantage and be like, right, this is our first final, we want to go out and get it done. I think if they go out with that mentality, I think they will. I think they could get it done, but I don't know if they will. I probably agree with you. A slight edging towards City, but as a United fan, I'd like to see Tottenham win it. And obviously, as a Chelsea fan, you'd like to see City, but
exactly,
it's got all the ingredients just to be a great game of football. But we just got to wait and see. There's quite a few other games going on in the coming weeks. Obviously, we've got the FA Cup this weekend. Before we go on about our two teams, one of the games I'm more excited for is the Stockport West Ham. Being from Stockport myself, I think I love the fact that Stockport's got a team like West Ham and they've made it into the third round. It's a good money boost for the club, also be good for the players getting the experience. Obviously, I don't think many of us are expecting to come out of the game, but I just think it's going to be a good experience boost for the players. And I think if we can keep it to a close margin, win or lose, then I think the players will be proud of themselves. But obviously our teams, United's got Watford, I think it is, and who's Chelsea got?
Morecambe at the Bridge. Tough one. No, I'm joking.
Got the ingredients for a Morecambe 3-0 win that.
I wouldn't be surprised with the way we're going right now.
How do you assess that game?
Morecambe?
Yeah.
Well, obviously they're only 2 right now, and I know Lampard's under the cosh a bit, but I expect him to make several changes going into clash with Morecambe, but regardless, our A team, B team, and even our C team can certainly get the job done against Morecambe. It's probably just a case of getting the fringe players some game time, and maybe some of the players wanting to establish themselves in the starting 11, some game time. I think I'm mainly looking at Kai Havertz in particular. This is a perfect opportunity for him to get 90 minutes under his belt. I do see him starting in the game with Morecambe because he hasn't started recently, and he came off the bench against Manchester City, got the assist for Callum Hudson-Odoi, showed glimpses. And again, with Kai Havertz on his day, he's a top quality player, and I just want to see him do well for the club. And I know it's Morecambe, they're League Two, but if he puts in a good performance against Morecambe, that's only going to do his confidence a world of joy. So it should be a reasonably comfortable test. But like I said, we've only won one game in our last 6 league outings, so you never know. I mean, but again, like I said, it is Morecambe. They're League Two side. Fingers crossed they get the job done.
We'll have all the Morecambe fans coming for you now, but I that game, obviously Chelsea and Morecambe, I think looking on it, it should be don't like to use the phrase often, but it should be a walk in the park for Chelsea. You've got all the experienced players, but I
said that with Bradford.
Yeah, but I think this one will be a bit different. I think you probably will cruise to the 4th round, but I'm not, wouldn't say nervous, but I don't know. It depends. For my team game, United and Watford, I don't know how we're going to turn up. I don't know who Ollie's going to play. But if we play like we played against City, Watford could punish us on the counter-attacks. I think, obviously, they've got Troy Deeney, and as we know, they was only in the Premier League last season. Troy Deeney's a lethal striker. He could easily punish our defence. And with how our defence has been at points this season, then I would not be surprised if that is the case. But I think, again, for United, I think it should be comfortable-ish. I think maybe 2-0, 3-1, something like that. But I think it's going to be one of them games where it's going to be a bit gritty. But I think we'll pull it out of the bag. I think I wouldn't play Bruno. That's one person I wouldn't play for this game. I'd put him on the bench and maybe play him for the last 20 minutes because obviously, as we'll talk about soon, our Premier League status at the minute is a lot better than what we thought would be at come start of the season. But I think some of the main players, Bruno, Rashford, Martial, we need to save for the coming games because we need to do our best as we can in the Premier League. So obviously, as we know, we could go top next week, which I didn't think I'd be saying this season. But I think we need to conserve their energy a bit because if we run them out, and it'll only be March March, April, I'll probably say that the players will be running out a hell of a lot of steam. But I don't know about the game, like I say. I think the players we should play, I think we'll probably play Henderson over De Gea. And then the defence, I don't know. As I've said before, Harry Maguire, no disrespect to him, but he needs to use that head to good use and get into gear, basically, because he's made quite a few mistakes this season. But obviously, when you're going to have the pressure of one of the most expensive players in the world, that title on your back, it's going to be a lot of pressure. But when you're playing at one of the biggest clubs in the world, you've got to perform under the pressure. And unfortunately, this season, he's not performed to his best, or as we've seen before. But yeah, like I say, I think it'll be a comfortable-ish win for United. But how do you see the Premier League shaping up over the next couple of weeks?
I don't know. I simply do not know. I mean, this season has been absolutely crazy from start to now, really. I mean, we're in January right now, and this is the sort of period in previous Premier League eras where you tend to see not really a clear winner, but you could sort of point towards a favourite in a way. But this year, I genuinely don't know who's going to win the league. So many people...
Sorry to interrupt you. I think I seen a photo the other day. There was from 10th in the table. There was 3 teams joint 4th, 3 teams joint 3rd, 3 teams joint 2nd, and obviously United and Liverpool joint top. And at this point in the season, I love it. Me, obviously, I'd like to be a bit more comfortable in the Premier League. Obviously, trying to secure the top spot. I know we can go top, but I'd love to be a couple of points ahead on top. But I love it, the fact that anyone could win. Obviously, we've seen we've seen some teams there that we didn't think. Obviously, Leicester have started to prove themselves the past couple of years, so I'm not surprised they're there. But then we've got the teams like Aston Villa performing. I think a lot of people expected Leeds to do well. They're doing okay, but well, speaking of teams that aren't doing the greatest, I know they've had a couple of wins recently, but Arsenal, I was quite surprised. Obviously, I don't think they'll ever return to the glory days under Mikel Arteta, but I'd at least expect them to be challenging for Champions League at least. With the players they've got, and the size of the club they are, but like I say, obviously anyone's got the ability to win it this year, and I think the past couple of years we've been so overpowered by Liverpool and City. I think this is the best league we've had since either Chelsea winning it in 14-15, I think, or Leicester's league win. So I think this is going to be one of the more exciting leagues we've seen in a while. But yeah, if you could give a prediction, how do you see the top of the table come 2 months' time?
I still think Liverpool will do it. They've had a couple of blips recently. But with that being said, I mean, fair play to Klopp's man. He's had to make do with some of the injuries he's had and some of the various suspensions he's had, and he's still found a way to adapt to all these injury problems, and they've still managed to get the results. I know, again, results haven't gone their way recently, but I still expect them to get the job done, no matter how hard it will be, because, again, this is probably one of the most open Premier League seasons we've had in a long time. Certainly, as far as I can remember, I genuinely, like I said, you tend to sort of see a favourite come January, who's the most stand-up team, but now you genuinely cannot call it. I mean, I wrote Manchester United off at the start of the season. I'm sure many others did, and maybe even your own fans wrote you off to win the league at the start of the season. But you've came out of the blue, out of nowhere. You're now competing for a top spot. So all credit goes to Ollie and his men, because at one point there was talk of him getting the boot, but now they've seemed to catch that second wind, get a good couple of results under their belt, and now they're thereabouts competing again. And you look at Villa, Aston Villa, Leicester. They've had a phenomenal season. Even Southampton, they have been absolutely brilliant this season. Southampton, take nothing away from Ralph Hasenhüttl. I can see him getting a big possible potential move in the near future, because he's a great manager at heart, and he thoroughly deserves a move in the near future. And fair play to what he's achieving at Southampton, because they got a big win over Liverpool on Monday.
Yeah,
and again, this Premier League is just so open. You can't really call it right now. I think Liverpool just go through just get thereabouts, but again, Manchester City are sort of getting the results in recent weeks, and they're going to want to establish themselves as the top team in England again. So they'll be competing, and they'll be sort of breathing down Jurgen Klopp's next coming weeks. I don't know. You'll probably have to come back to me at some point, because right now you just cannot call it.
Yeah, I don't think I could either. I think what I'd love even more is I want City to come back up here, but I want it to be a 3-horse title race between us, City, and Liverpool. And obviously, I'd love for us to win the league. I don't think many of the fans thought we'd even be close to here with how the beginning of the season went, because, as everyone rightly remembers, we got walloped 6-1 at home by Spurs, and at that point, I've seen a lot of fans say bottom half of the table. I was thinking more mid-table at the time, if we carried on like that. But title contenders, I'm not going to argue. But one thing I don't want, if we are going to be contending for the title for the whole season, I don't want Liverpool to win it on the last day. I don't want to repeat 2011-12. That and especially against Liverpool, I think that would be a lot worse than the City one, a hell of a lot worse. But as we said, we could go 3 points clear at the top of the table come next week. I think Tuesday, Wednesday. But we've got Burnley. If we get a result, or even if we get a draw, we're going top, depending on how many points. But that will be our game in hand. So as long as we win every game, or even win every game and then get draws against Liverpool, we'll obviously be staying top of the table. And it depends how Liverpool perform. Obviously, we know injuries are part of the game, so they can happen at any time. So hopefully none of the players do get injured, but hopefully some of the players don't live up to the potential for the season. That's all I'm saying. But
you've had a stroke of luck as well, haven't you? I mean, that Villa game, no way on earth was that a penalty. No way on earth. But you do need that. No, sure, you do need that luck to become champions. So,
100%. And mine's gone back now. There was whoever we played a couple of days before the end of the year, and we got the last minute goal. I think that was Villa as well. I think, it was. I think, obviously, Fergie time's come back, but it's come back in Ollie time. But as we say, top of the table in 2 months' time. It's too close to call because even we could see Chelsea at the top, we could see Tottenham at the top. That's how close the league is at the minute. Obviously, we could see teams that are 9th in the league at the minute be top in 2 months' time. It's just how close the league is. But I think I don't want to jinx it, but I think I'm not going to say we're going to win the league because not knowing United's luck, we'll fuck up against someone like City. We'll do well against everyone else, but it'll either be City or Liverpool. We'll lose because I'm sure we got Liverpool twice to play. I think.
You got them soon.
Yeah, I think we've got Liverpool at next month, I think, or end of this month. And obviously we've still got City once more in the league. And then we've still got the likes of Tottenham. I think we're playing Tottenham soon as well. But it's not going to be easy at all. But obviously we've not been in the title race for a while. Obviously, I know when City got the 100-point league, we was second, but we was nowhere near getting the title. Because obviously it was 20-something points clear. But I just think a lot of the fans have forgot. Well, last time we was in a title race where we had a good chance was when we won, and I think I was about 13 when that last happened. So I've even forgot what it feels like to be in a proper title race. But I think a lot of the fans have forgot what it's like. But I'm just nervous for this league now. I just think Liverpool, one of the best teams in the world at the minute. City, if they click into gear and carry on how they're doing now, one of the best teams in the world. But if we can maybe have a bit of help from the Ollie time, as we say, maybe we can get the results. VAR does its job. That's all I'm saying. But it worked. But I just think I'm excited. But obviously, as a fan, you're nervous for your team. Obviously, where are you going to finish? Past few years, we finished 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. Well, yeah, we finished 2nd as well. But we've not been in a position where we're going to be real close to winning the title. And now I couldn't ask for anything more at the minute after being walloped 6-1 at home by Spurs at the beginning of the season. Obviously, draw against Burnley puts us one clear at the top. And if we do, like we've said, if we do well, that's going to be us. But this Burnley game, next week, I'm going to be more nervous for that than I am in a game against, say, Liverpool or City, just to see United at the top of the table again, because I don't think we've been top of the table for a week or two for a while now. I think last time was, again, the time when City won the league in the 100 points season. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Could you give your relegation predictions for the season, or do you think that's still too early?
Sheffield United, West Brom, and I'll probably say Brighton, but maybe Fulham. I don't know. But Sheffield United and West Brom are probably clear for me, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember how many points but Sheffield United, I'm sure they're only on.
They've only got 2 points.
Yeah, and I'm like, the worst points in a Premier League season was Derby, I believe, in 08-09, and they got was it 9? I think it was 9 points. Or
I don't know. I think it was a bit more than that. I might have a look now.
It might have been 12, but I think Derby, even at this point of the season, had more than that. So Sheffield United, I mean, if they want to stay in the league, they've got to get their arse into gear and quick.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And there was talk of them bloody getting European football last season, and look where they are now. It's just crazy.
I feel bad for Sheffield because I think the break last season because of the COVID had fucked them over a bit, because as soon as we come back after the break, it wasn't the same. They lost the Europa League space. They was even contended for Champions League at one point, but they lost the Europa League place. And this season, as we've seen, they've not performed at all.
No, Derby got 11 on that season.
Yeah.
So can you see them getting 9 points? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I feel for Chris Wilder, but I don't know. I think many people have sussed them out now, and they haven't really recruited well over the summer. Obviously, they got Ampadu, and if you look at their team, if there's one player that stands out that Premier League clubs should sign if they do go down, is by far, without a shadow of a doubt, Sander Berg. He's a phenomenal midfielder at the heart of their midfield, obviously. But again, other than that, there's no real sort of standout player really in that Sheffield United team. And they've gone back to basics as they did last season, which worked. But like I said, people have clearly sussed them out this season, and it's just not clicked for them. It's, whether that's down to lack of recruitment or the quality of recruitment, I genuinely don't know. And as you rightly pointed out, since the lockdown and since they came back, they've been a bit abysmal. They've been up and down, and that sort of transcended onto this season. It's a bit of a shame. I like Sheffield United, but I don't know. I can see him going down. Maybe they've bitten off more than they can chew.
Yeah, I agree. And then last thing I got football related at literally not long before we went live. Amad Diallo, I think that's how you pronounce his name, obviously signed for United. I don't know too much about the kid, but I'm quite excited to see what he brings.
I saw the 30 million price tag, was it?
Something right.
I think it was. He's an 18-year-old. Paying 30 million for an 18-year-old, that's crazy. I know that that's football these days.
I mean, we paid 80 million for Harry Maguire, so.
We paid 70 million for Kepa, so. Who's laughing?
I don't think price matters too much nowadays in football. It's get the player, pay the price.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think he even made that many first-team appearances for Atalanta, so I don't know. They must have done something to have caught Ole in the board's eye. So hopefully we can sort of see it now.
I heard there was rumours that he was going to go straight back on loan to Atalanta, but apparently Ole said that's not the case. He wants him to join up with the first-team squad as soon as possible. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because it's a breath of fresh air in the squad, but is it too much too soon for him? That's what I'm thinking.
I think he should go on loan immediately.
Even if it's not on loan, even if he does what Palestri's doing and joins the under-23s, I think even that'll be better than being thrown straight into the first team, I think. But knowing our luck and what we say on the podcast, he's going to become the top scorer in the Premier League this season.
Christ. Yeah, no luck.
Everything we say on the podcast, the opposite seems to happen. So United's going to get relegated, I'll say that, so hopefully we'll win the league now.
Yeah, hopefully we don't jinx it on that occasion.
Yeah, but next up, boxing, Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell, a couple of days ago. I think Ryan Garcia has proved now to the world he's 22 and 20-0, and I think he's proved to the world he's more than just an Instagram, YouTube boxer. He's one of the real deals. I think ever since he was hanging around with the poor guys, and I've seen on YouTube he was hanging around with them, and then he's been big on Instagram. I think a lot of people were just thinking, oh, he's going to be like these influencers that are coming over to the sport and getting a paycheck, basically. But nah, I think Ryan Garcia is going to be, with the right training behind him, and if the fame doesn't go to his head, I think he could be one of the real deal. Obviously, Luke Campbell, great fighter.
Former Olympic medalist, you can't go wrong.
He's fought for the title again for Vasily Lomachenko, and I know he lost his last fight, Lomachenko, but we know how good of a fighter he is. And Ryan Garcia to stop him nonetheless as well. I know Ryan Garcia was dropped in the second round for the first time in his career, and then he comes back and with a performance like that, drops Luke Campbell and in the seventh with a body shot, and I don't think you could have asked much more from him. He's now no disrespect to boxing, but I lose count of what names and how many titles there is in boxing. So he's got a title of some sort in boxing at the minute. So
yeah, there's three names that come to mind. That's next for Ryan Garcia, in my opinion.
There's Tank something.
Yeah, there's Lopez, there's Devin Haney, and there's Gervonta Davis. That's the one I want to see.
Yeah, I want to.
Floyd Mayweather's guy.
Yeah, I think either one of them fights is going to be good, but I think when we were speaking of the influencers coming in and what people thought of Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney fought on the influencer card, obviously Logan Paul KSI in November, and dominant, but I don't know with how I seen Ryan Garcia at the weekend. I think he'd have a good chance against Devin Haney, and I know obviously Devin Haney's one of the world champions. They didn't win the title with a fight, was awarded it, but has defended it nonetheless, so he is the champion. But I think Ryan Garcia would have a good chance against Devin Haney. But even all the fights, Tank, Gervonta, I think they'd all be a good all be good fights. Who do you think for Ryan Garcia?
I mean, the one thing that stands out, I think it has to be Gervonta Davis. That's a fight that everyone wants to see. Just looking back at the fight, I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, as you said, he's come a long way since being dubbed as that Instagram YouTuber influencer, and he's earned his seat amongst the top contenders at lightweight, and it's just so. It's refreshing to see the amount of talent we have at the lower weight class in boxing now, and everyone talks about the heavyweight ceiling in the show. You've got Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. Them lot, when they fight, that's the ones that people watch. But now you've got those people coming through at the lower weight categories. It's great to see, and I watched the fight personally on Saturday night. I think it was. Yeah. It was just brilliant. Like right from the get go, obviously Garcia controlled. Just pretty much through his aggression, pressuring Campbell's jab, landed some of his own left hooks and straight right hands, and just the speed on display from Ryan Garcia was just absolutely breathtaking. And like I said, he deserves a seat amongst the best at lightweight. And he's not short of options. Let's face it. I think the fight with Devin Haney, it can be done. I think they both fight on DAZN, but with different. Promotions. I think Haney's on Matchroom, Garcia's on Golden Boy or something like that, but they can get it done. But like I said, the one that stands out is Gervonta Davis, because obviously that's Floyd Mayweather's guy, and he is absolutely. I had my doubts over Gervonta Davis a couple of years ago, but he's sort of come out of his shell recently. He's got 23 knockouts in his professional career, and that's just going to be sheer explosive. Honestly, fireworks guaranteed that night if it does happen. His last fight against Santa Cruz, I believe it was, finished him with an outrageous, I think it was an uppercut to the body. It was just crazy the way he finished Santa Cruz, and I think it was in October. So I think that's a fight that fans want to see, and again, that's sort of the money fight, because and the Mayweather, his promotion, they've got the money. Stick those two lads in the ring, because they're probably two of the hottest prospects in the lower lightweight category right now.
100%, and I just mentioned some of the heavyweights. Obviously, we spoke about it in the past 2 episodes, I think, when we had Alex on, and then when it was us. But Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, even now with the UK going into full lockdown like we did back in, sounds a long time ago. Well, it is now. Last March, so we're coming up to close to a year of full restrictions. But do you think we'd be able to see Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua without a full stadium of fans? I don't know.
It has to be with stadium. It has to be with fans.
I don't think it'd even be right if, like, AJ's last fight against Pulev, if it was just 1,000 or 2,000. I don't think that'd even be right for AJ Fury. But I think they'll probably have a multiple fight deal. I'm sure they'll have 2 or 3 fight deal. Yeah. So if they do the first fight without fans, if they've got multiple fight deal, I think they'll probably want to do the first fight as soon as possible. But I don't see who else, apart from AJ facing Usyk, I don't see who deserves a shot really that much against either of them now, apart from each other, because I think the fight to make is now AJ Fury.
I mean, I would have said Dillian White had he not got knocked out by Bacon, I think it was. So, again, Usyk's mandatory, and he's a phenomenal athlete. He came off with a big win against Derek Chisora, but there's a big jump from Derek Chisora to Anthony Joshua. I mean, you could regard Derek Chisora as a bit of a gatekeeper. Sorry, should I say, to that heavyweight division. So that is a fight to make, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and I don't think. Just depends when they want to do it. I think potentially maybe either late summer, early Christmas sort of time, and then next year they'll probably do it next summer maybe. But if we can't have fans then in England, like a full sold out 80 to 100,000 arena, then I can see him doing it abroad, in all honesty, like probably like Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, that sort of region, because they seem to be doing it right over there with their COVID testing. I think certainly in Abu Dhabi, they've got their whole population tested and they're doing very well with testing people. And I'm guessing that they might even have fans or some fans in some sort of capacity for 257 at the end of the month. So if they can have fans in Abu Dhabi at the end of the month this time around, then come sort of summertime, then they could probably have a lot more for Anthony Joshua versus Fury. I know it's not the same, you want the British fans to be, in attendance, because it's essentially, well, it's two English fighters looking to secure the heavyweight division. And you need the English fans there. It has to be in England, but if you can't do it in England, sort of the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, that sort of region.
Well, as you mentioned, 257, we'll go over to the UFC now, but I think, we'll do the Sports Sesh podcast, UFC 2020 Awards, or whatever we want to call it. Copying a bit off Open, Matt and BT Sport, but who cares? No copyright, guys. I think we've got 4 of them to do: female fighter, male fighter, KO, submission, and fight. So 5. I think at least 3 out of 5. I think we're going to have the same. So I'll let you go first. Who's your fight of the year?
Fight of the year.
Fight of the year.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, it has to be Young Jacek versus Weili Zhang.
Bollywood.
Crazy, honestly, absolutely crazy. Just right from start to finish. I mean, you look at that card, 248, I believe it was. Many people thought that the Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero would steal the show, but my God, did the female strawweights steal the show and then some? It exceeded all of our expectations. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. I mean, I think Joanna had that hematoma and her head was swelling up, but she was still putting pressure on. And many sort of doubted Weili as to, whether or not she's had that tough test. But she certainly was tested to the max against Joanna and then some. And then Joanna, former champion, could she do it at the highest level again? She proved that she could, although the decision didn't go her way. I think we all want to see the rematch. Like I said, it would go down as one of the best female, or the best female fight in the history of women's MMA. And from the looks of it, I don't think we'll see the rematch. They're looking to do either Rose Namajunas versus Weili or either Carlos Esparza's name was mentioned. But without a shadow of doubt, that's my fight of the year.
100%. I think that one's probably one of the easiest. One of 2 of the easiest ones we're going to have to pick now. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Zhang Weili, obviously, as you said, greatest female fight of all time. I don't think we could have asked any more from the fight itself. I think I was a bit sceptical at first. I knew it'd be a okay fight, but I didn't think it'd be that good. As you said, we thought Israel and Yoel Romero would steal the show, and if it weren't for the women's fight, I think that card would have been a bit of a stinker. But obviously, my choice is Zhang Weili and Joanna Jędrzejczyk as well. It's just a great fight. I'll go for next up, knockout of the year. I'll go first. I think we'll have the same one for this. Joaquin Buckley versus Castagne. Obviously, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I just remember watching it, and I just thought I had to pick my jaw up. I thought, what have we just seen? Obviously, in his fight before that, Buckley, I think he got knocked out by Kevin Holland. So to come back and have the knockout of the year, I don't think anyone expected something like that, as you say.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think we've ever seen a spinning back kick knockout. It's just absolutely crazy where it happened. I think the sort of time stood still as soon as, Impa Castagne's face hit the ground, because we were just in sheer shock as to whether or not that truly happened. And again, he followed that up with another good win. I think it was in his last fight. Another sort of highlight reel knockout. Again, I think his UFC debut was against Kevin Holland, so it was certainly a tough ask to get the job done against Kevin Holland on his UFC debut, who is probably one of the male fighters of the year last year. So take nothing away from Joaquin Buckley managed to get it done against Imper, and then Jordan Wright, I think it was. But fair play to him, because that was a sensational knockout, and I think we can all agree there. There's not a lot more to be said. That's just, without a shadow of doubt, there's no debate needed for that one.
100%. It's probably, I know we've still got 9 years left of the decade, but that's going to be contender for knockout of the decade come 2029. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
But next, I'll let you go first for this one. Submission of the year.
I mean, before, it's a bit of it was a toss-up between Khabib's against Justin Gaethje or Jimmy Flicks against Cody Durden on his UFC debut, because I've spoken to Jimmy a couple of times and he's a bit of a submission artist, and I knew he had that in his locker, but just the way he executed it perfectly was sensational. But in the end, I think I went for Khabib on my post about almost a week ago when I did the awards for UFC Deluxe. So yeah, I went for Khabib Nurmagomedov just because of the way, just the sort of, the pressure he was under to perform. Many thought that Justin Gaethje would be his toughest test yet, and this was the first fight since losing his father, so there was a lot at stake to perform with regards to Khabib Nurmagomedov. So, and like I said, just the way he executed right from the get-go, Nurmagomedov just mowed Gaethje down and was always charging on the front foot. And again, in the second round, he pressured immediately, managed to get the fight to the floor, controlled proceedings from top position, and to secure that impressive triangle choke was just absolutely phenomenal. So mine would probably be Khabib Nurmagomedov against Gaethje.
Yeah, I thought you was going to go for the other one there, Jimmy Flicks, but I've gone for Khabib as well. So I think looking at the next two ones, I think we're going to have I think we might have the same for all of them. But I think yeah. Khabib, I just think great submission as well. But I think we've got to bring in the circumstances around it. Just a couple of months after his father's death, 29-0, and especially against someone like Justin Gaethje. I think even though Justin Gaethje is a great wrestler, Khabib's going to have the edge of wrestling against most fighters. I think everyone. I think he'd have the wrestling advantage over even GSP as well if that was to happen. But that'll be another episode to talk about. But yeah, I've gone for Khabib as well, just from the circumstances that surrounding the fight, his father's death, and just how emotional of a fight it was. I don't think anyone on Khabib's camp could have asked better of him. So yeah, I've gone for Khabib for mine as well. Next, I'll go female fight of the year. I've gone for Valentina Shevchenko just because she had two fights, two title defenses. Obviously, she beat Caitlin Shukagan. I think I probably butchered that name back in March, I believe. Yeah. Or it might have been February. Yeah, because it was on the John Jones Reyes card, I think. And then obviously she defeated Jennifer Maia back in November. And two fights. I would have liked to choose Weili Zhang, but she only fought once. If she fought once or twice more, then she probably would have been Women's Fight of the Year just with that fight alone. But I've gone Valentina Shevchenko. Have you gone for, mate?
Yeah, same, mate. Honestly, she was probably the most active. Amanda Nunes also fought once, so it was a no-brainer in selecting Valentina. I know her fight with Jennifer Maia went the distance, but once again, she was just simply flawless. I mean, she continued to show she continues to show fans how dominant she is, either on the feet or on the mat. And you look at Jennifer Maia; she was a great grappler, and on the mat, she's very dangerous. And Valentina, she was willing to take the fight to the floor as well to sort of show her wrestling credentials and her grappling credentials and her jiu-jitsu all on that night. So to get the job done in impressive style against Jennifer Maia, and then following that up, before that at 247 against Caitlin Shukagan, she definitely deserves Female Fighter of the Year. There's no one that even came close. I agree with you with Weili Zhang. If she fought probably even once more and got a sensational finish, then she definitely deserved the Female Fighter of the Year. But Valentina Shevchenko, again, no-brainer for me.
Okay, I'll let you say this one now for yours. Male Fight of the Year.
At the start of the year, there was talk of the division being sort of wiped off from the roster, from the whole entire UFC. For Davis and Figueiredo to sort of step forward really and take control of the 125-pound division is just nothing short of spectacular. I've got nothing but respect for Davison Figueiredo, and since Henry Cejudo moved up to bantamweight, again, even I myself included, was like, what's next for the flyweights? Because they just lost Demetrius Johnson, they've just lost Henry Cejudo, two of their best stars, and like I said, upset Davison Figueiredo. I know he didn't he got the job done the first time around against Benavidez, but it didn't count because he missed weight. He learned from his mistakes. He made weight in Fight Island, got the job done again in an even more impressive style. And then he fought against Alex Perez in November and then made easy work of that. And to fight 3 weeks later against a Brandon Moreno who he should have fought prior to when they did, that he should have fought Davison Figueiredo instead of Figueiredo fighting Alex Perez, if that made sense. They should have fought earlier, but what a fight that was. And I mean, if Figueiredo wasn't deducted for the groin strikes in round 3, I think it was, and I think he would have won that fight. But again, it's impressive to come back as a champion 3 weeks after his last fight. No UFC champion would ever do that, I don't think. It's certainly impressive on Davison Figueiredo's behalf, because not only has he saved the flyweight division, but we may have seen the next sort of long reigning champion for years to come, because he's 30, 31.
Yeah.
Again, the flyweight division's his. So got nothing but respect for Davison Figueiredo, and he truly deserves the male fighter of the year, because considering where the flyweights were at the start of 2020 going into 2020, late 2019, like I said, Dana was adamant or was trying or was teasing the UFC was going to get rid of the division. So for him to practically save it, male fighter of the year for me. So who's yours?
Well, it was very close for me. I've gone for Kevin Holland. 5 fights, 5 wins, 4 finishes. The only one that was a bit obviously sceptical was his decision win over Darren Stewart, and many people thought Darren won the fight, but nonetheless, on the night he didn't. As Dana says, never let it go to the judges' hands, but nonetheless, obviously, he won the fight. And I just think Kevin Holland, he's one of the... He's like we said before about someone, he's a breath of fresh air. I think I do like... I know a lot of people... I'm trying to think how to say it. A lot of people don't like him because of how he is in the cage, because I know Dana didn't like it at first, but how he talks to people in the cage. But his most recent fight, last card of the year, I think, Gray Souza, the finish, obviously, as we've said in the last episode, the only other person to have a finish from the back, Nico Price. And I just think that performance from Kevin Holland, it was just, I couldn't have. I had him winning, but I don't think I had him winning that spectacularly. Obviously, he's had the finishes against Joaquin Buckley, Charlie Ontiveros, and the other guys as well. But I don't think we could have asked for anything different from Kevin on that point. So just because it's 5 fights, 5 wins, and 4 finishes, I went for Kevin. I think for male fighter of the year, it had to be between them two, and it was just close for either of them. But obviously, last episode we spoke about the Fight Island card, but we've got a new main event for the second card on the third stint of Fight Island. We've got Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny. I don't know about it. I think it could be a good fight. I think it could be a close fight as well. I don't know why I'm edging towards Neil Magny. How about you?
Yeah, no, totally agree, mate. I'm all for Neil Magny as well, because he picked up an impressive performance win against Robbie Lawler in his last fight. And again, Michael Chiesa has only just sort of established himself as a welterweight contender, probably because he couldn't make the 155 weight anymore. I think he got a good win over Rafael dos Anjos, Carlos Condit at 170, and this will almost certainly be Chiesa's toughest test yet at welterweight, because Neil Magny is on a good run of form after being out on the sidelines, and I just think the sheer height and the reach advantage over Chiesa will get the job done. I don't think it's going to be a good fight. I don't think we're going to it's not going to be an outstanding fight. It's probably going to be a traditional classical back and forth fight, and I don't think we'll see the finish in this one. I think we'll see Neil Magny use his height and the reach advantage to control the distance and to use his, clever and very versatile striking. Probably get it done via decision. I don't think I'm confident we won't see a finish in that one. I think Neil Magny will sort of pick Chiesa apart throughout all 5 rounds and get the unanimous decision victory.
Another fight that's been announced for Fight Island, UFC 257 co-main event, Dan Hooker against Michael Chandler. As we know, Chandler coming over from Bellator, great fighter. I think this is going to be a real tough test for him, though. Dan Hooker, as we've seen in his past 2 fights, great striking, and I just don't know. As I was saying to you before, obviously Dan Hooker lost the fight against Dustin Poirier. Stuttering a bit there, and then he won the fight against Paul Felder back in February last year. He's had a good 6 months out now from the Poirier fight, so I think he'll be recharged. And I think I believe Michael Chandler is going to have the edge. I think he's going to. I know he's got really good striking as well, but I think he'll use his wrestling to his advantage. And I don't see it being a finish for either of them, but I wouldn't even say dominant. I think it's going to be a close decision with Chandler. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm so torn in this fight. I think it's going to be a very, very greatly contested bout between 2 men who are going to want to prove themselves for 2 different reasons. Dan Hooker wanting to show the UFC lightweight division that he can still be there or thereabouts after his war with Dustin Poirier. Michael Chandler, who many have written off before he's even fought a UFC fight. So he'll want to prove to the UFC masses and the MMA faithful that he deserves to be in the UFC, and he's an experienced veteran himself as a former champion under Bellator. So he's proved to be a tough guy to beat in previous years. So if this contest is anything like Hooker's last 2 fights, then it will be an action-packed and fun to watch. This style of fight, I don't know, it could. This is a style of a fight that could end quickly with power that Chandler possesses. I think he does possess power in those hands. But then again, you don't want to be striking with Dan Hooker, who will almost certainly have the height and the reach advantage in this fight. So I think having that sheer height and reach disadvantage, I think, like you said, Michael Chandler may want to use his wrestling prowess and his wrestling credentials to sort of try and get the fight done. And maybe even try and get close and throw some bombs himself, Michael Chandler, because I think just based on, I think Dan Hooker may have the edge in terms of the striking department. But again, if things go, eerie and a bit downhill for Chandler in the stand-up, then he will almost certainly try to use his wrestling pedigree to control the fight. And his wrestling ability seems to be the difference maker in this fight. I mean, I don't know, I'm so torn. I'm probably going to say Michael Chandler via decision on this one. I think the shorter rounds benefit Michael Chandler because he can just certainly control the fight. I think even himself will know not to sort of get too loose and too wild and throw too many strikes out there with Dan Hooker, who can counter you and who can put you away. So if he uses his wrestling credentials and his pedigree, he'll probably get the job done, to be honest.
Yeah, I've got 2 more fights that are rumoured or confirmed to talk about. I don't know if it's been confirmed. I think this one has Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman. I think it's 258 February. Yeah, it's done deal, that one now. Obviously, this is the 3rd time it's been booked. I don't think this is going to be one of them fights that occurs because I don't think it's too appealing to many fans or the casuals, as you'll say. But I think this has got the abilities to be potentially Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman level as well, because both guys good wrestlers. I don't think Gilbert will want to wrestle with Kamaru, but I think Kamaru might be a bit wary of Gilbert's wrestling as well. But Gilbert can strike as well. This one, I think it's going to be. I don't know if it'll be too close, but I think it might be. I'm going Kamaru decision. What about you?
We're going to see a new welterweight champion in February. Mark my words. Yeah, I mean, I can see it. Wherever the fight goes, Gilbert Burns can hold his own on the mat. I think obviously Usman may have the edge, but he's just got such a great wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, Gilbert Burns, whereby he can cause some problems on the mat with Kamaru Usman. And I think on the feet, Gilbert Burns definitely 100% has the edge over Kamaru Usman. This is going to be Usman's toughest test to date. And I think they are former trainers as well, training partners. They've sort of trained with him, so that'll be interesting to see. So I genuinely think Gilbert Burns could get it done. I really, really can. I mean, as some people say, Kamaru Usman, the king of foot stomps. I think he loses his title next month. I genuinely can see it. I believe Gilbert Burns has the ability to get it done. Whether it's for a late finish or a decision, wherever the fight goes, Gilbert Burns can hold his own.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of Gilbert Burns for reasons I'm not going to say, but even disregarding that, I think, well, to be fair, I said I don't think it would be close, but I changed my mind. If it goes to the decision, I think it will be close. It depends. I think it's how both fighters approach it. If both guys want to wrestle, I think Kamaru will come out with a decision. But if both guys want to strike, if it goes to the decision, I think Gilbert Burns. But either way, if you're a true fan of MMA, this should be a good fight, because if you're a true fan of MMA, you're going to appreciate the great wrestling both guys have got in. Even for the casual fans, it's going to be a good standing battle if it stays on there. But another fight, I know it's not been confirmed yet, but heavily rumoured, UFC 260, I think in March or April, Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou rematch. I think that one will probably happen, but this one, I'm gonna say Stipe, but if he catches them hands off Francis, you never know. What do you think about the fight?
You know, they fought. I think it was in 2018 or 2017 or what have you. Stipe Miocic. I think Stipe Miocic has Francis Ngannou's number in this one. I think Ngannou's on an impressive run. I think it's 4 first-round finishes. So fair play to him. He clearly wants to sort of show the world what he's capable of, because he certainly was underwhelming and very unimpressive in the fight with Stipe Miocic. And Francis Ngannou has come a long way since his defeat to Stipe Miocic, but I really like the looks of Stipe in his last fight with Daniel Cormier. You know, the trilogy, won the trilogy 2-1. So I'm really a big fan of Stipe. I mean, he's looking in great shape. And again, if you look at his last fight with Daniel Cormier, he's added a bit more to his game. And I think if he beats Francis Ngannou, then he'll probably establish himself as probably one of the greatest heavyweights of all time in not only the UFC, but the whole of MMA. I think he's a true talent, and it's going to be a shame when he hangs up the gloves, because he is 38. So he's getting on a bit. But I think Stipe has Francis's number. But like you said, if Francis connects, it's lights out. And he's a bit gun shy, I think, in the first fight. And he didn't really have an answer to Stipe Miocic's takedowns. When he got the fight to the floor, he's constantly putting pressure as well, Miocic, as soon as he got rocked at times. But in this one, like you said, 4 first-round finishes. If he catches you cleanly, you get knocked out, you're going to sleep. But I think Stipe gets this one done again.
Yeah, I don't think he'll finish Francis. I think it'll be a very good decision win. But if Stipe wins, I think there's only one more fight in his career, and it'll be John Jones in the summer.
Oh yeah.
The winner of this fight, I think, fights John Jones summer, autumn time, and then, well, if Stipe wins, I think this is Stipe's last year of fighting, basically.
Yeah.
No disrespect to him, but obviously he's getting on a bit. If he defeats Francis and then defeats John Jones, there's nothing else he needs to accomplish. He's already, in my books, he's probably the greatest heavyweight of all time. Most amount of successive UFC heavyweight title defenses, but there's 2 more. I've got to 2 more points before I go on to our top 5 fighters to watch in the coming year. Anthony Pettis obviously left the UFC following his fight against Alex Morono and has joined PFL for the 2021 season. I'm sure he's competing at lightweight, and for lightweight PFL, that sounds quite interesting to me. He could potentially be fighting one of the English boys, Brendan Loughnane, and I think that's going to be quite exciting. But if I was Pettis, I'm surprised he didn't go to Bellator, to be honest. No disrespect to Bellator, but they seem to have a lot of ex-UFC talent on the roster, but fair play for him going to the PFL. I think the prize for winning the season is something like $1 million.
Yeah.
And you'll have your payday from each fight as well. So if he does well in the fights for PFL, I don't think there's much more he can do. Obviously, I don't see him. Sorry, go on.
No, I think with Pettis, obviously, he's been around the game for a while. He's a true veteran of the sport. He's won the lightweight championship, and he's moved up and down from lightweight to welterweight. Again, I think there's not a lot left in him, really, for him to accomplish. I mean, the PFL, there's certainly some great talents within that, under that banner. And again, there's a big payday at the end of it, and in between, you get your own sort of paydays. And there, like I said, there are certainly some talents under that sort of fighting championship and under that roster. And again, as you touched upon, Brendan Lotney is going to be, if they do come face to face, that's going to be a cracking fight. Again, with Pettis, I'm surprised he didn't go to Bellator like his brother Sergio at flyweight and at bantamweight. So again, there's not really much to be said with this one. He's coming towards the end of his career, Anthony Pettis. He's a true veteran of the sport. He'll go down as it'll go down as a true fighter, because when Anthony Pettis fights, it's a very great and it's a very fun fight to watch whenever he steps inside the octagon, because he truly lives for this shit, as some people say. So I've got nothing but respect for Anthony Pettis wherever his career goes from now, and however good or bad he does at PFL. So good luck to him.
Last thing I've got me to talk about, I said we'll do our top 5 fighters to watch in 2021. We'll go one for one. My first one, I'm going to say Kevin Holland, just to see how his career goes this year, because I know it's rumoured March 20th. I think he's going to be main eventing against Derek Brunson, and if he beats Derek Brunson, then he's going to be in line to fight the guys like, obviously, potential fights against Edmund Shabazian, Kelvin Gastelum, depending how his fights go. People like that, really, and seeing how his career goes this year is going to be really exciting. If he lives up to how he did last year, 10 fights in 2 years, if he does that, then I don't know. If the coronavirus pandemic didn't happen, well, I know it was only a 3-week break for the UFC, but could have even had a 6th fight last year if that break didn't happen. But my first fighter to watch in 2021 is Kevin Holland. Who's yours first?
I'll probably go for Britain's Tom Aspinall. I mean, he's 2-0 in the UFC so far. He's certainly impressed, he's knocked out both of his opponents in the first round. I think he's only spent a little over 2 minutes inside the octagon so far, which is, I'm sure he want to spend a bit more time in the octagon in his next few fights. But again, if he's getting these early knockouts, I don't think he's going to be complaining. But despite having those legitimate striking power, he's also a black belt. And he does in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and has, again, that legit ground game as well, which we haven't seen yet. And if he does get tested, I'm sure he'll be able to hold his own on the mat if it does go there. His heavy hands and his slick striking and his quick movement is what makes him a standout heavyweight in the division. Give him 1 or 2 more fights, I think we'll see him in and amongst the top 15.
100%. Well, my next one, I was going to say Tom Aspinall within my 5 as well, obviously. Next fight, I think it's February 20th. So it's next month, basically, Andrei Arlovski. I seen a video on Tom's Instagram story before. He was in the gym, videoing the posters they've got up there. They've got like Bisping, Lieben, Henson, Rampage, and then there was a picture of Andrei Arlovski, and he was like, that's the guy I'm fighting next. And when you're growing up watching the UFC and now you're fighting one of the sets, I don't like to say heroes, but someone you looked up to, it's going to be big for you. And I don't think that's going to be pressure for Tom. I think that's going to be fire in the belly for him. I think that's going to spur him on even more. A win over Andrei Arlovski, I think his next fight will be against someone in the rankings. And then I truly believe if Tom defeats Andrei Arlovski and then wins his next fight after that, he'll be within that top 15. 100%. Who's your second?
I've gone for Movsar Evloev. He's 13-0. He's got a very bright future ahead of him. He's 3-0 in the UFC so far. He's just 26 years old, and he's a real problem for that featherweight division. He's got solid wrestling, which we saw in his last bout against Mike Grundy, as well as his impressive striking on the feet. He's so slick, and he seems to be evolving into a truly world-class mixed martial artist every time he steps into the cage. I think he was supposed to to fight a UFC Vegas 16, but COVID ruled him out, and we'll probably see him fight again either this month or early next month. And I would like to see him face either Andre Fili or Grant Dawson next. Both of these men have experience, and they have been rumored to fight Evloev next. So at 13-0, 3-0 in the UFC at 26 years of age, he's certainly one to look out for already, because he's got the wrestling background and he can also stand and trade. So what's not to love about him?
100%. Mine, I think some of mine may be a bit biased as well, but they've got the potential as well. I'll use them next, but number 3, I'm going Jimmy Crute. He's got I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but heavily rumored fight, and apparently they both agreed verbal terms against Johnny Walker, and I think that's going to be a good fight. Obviously, as we know, Walker has got the ability to knock you out, but as we've seen in Crute's last fight against Modestas Bukauskas, that first round, I think it was first round finish, and he got the job done. I think Jimmy Crute's going to win. I think Jimmy Crute, depending if Izzy stays at light heavyweight or not, could be a real challenger at light heavyweight for the title in a year or two's time. Who would you go for your number 3?
Number 3, I'd definitely have to say Mason Jones. I don't think he's not fought in the UFC yet, hasn't he?
No, his debut's coming up.
Yeah, his debut's coming up, and again, he's probably, in my opinion, the biggest sort of prospect outside of the UFC at the moment. He is scheduled to fight this month, and he just brings a lot of hype to him. He's at 10-0, stands at a double champion for Cage Warriors at that weight and welterweight, and he's legit. I mean, it's just crazy. He's going to make his debut at 155, I believe, and out of the 10-0, 7 of them have come by finish, and he's just all action. He provides a walk forward, a very well-rounded, exciting style, which will certainly appease the appetite of many MMA fans and UFC fans. And I think Mike Davis will be his debut, and who is 8-2, I believe, and he's coming off of a win in his most recent bout. So there's a lot of pressure going into this fight for Mason Jones, because he's going to want to impress Fight Island. And he's certainly one to watch in the future. If he gets a big performance against Mike Davis, then he truly is a legitimately top contender wherever he fights. And 2021 could be a good year for Mason Jones. I'm probably will most likely think he'll stay at lightweight, maybe. I don't know. But if he stays at lightweight and gets a couple of fights under his belt in 2021, 2022 is, we could even see a title shot in next year depending on how active he is and who he fights. He could be there or there.
Yeah. My number 4 one is Mason Jones as well. I think just how good of a fighter he is. Double champion Cage Warriors, lightweight and welterweight champion. As we know, I had him on the podcast, and when I asked him, he said he's preferably going to stay at lightweight in the UFC, but the opportunity for a good welterweight fight and a pushing welterweight, he wouldn't shy away from. But I think his focus is going to be lightweight at the moment, and I'd say huge fight for him against Matt Davis, 20th of January. As you say, 8-2 Davies. It's going to be a tough one. He's only 2 losses against Sadiq Youssef and Gilbert Burns, and we know them 2 fighters are really good fighters. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight for Mason. I see him winning it, but I don't know if he'll get the first round finish as he did in his last 2 fights for Cage Warriors against Adam Proctor and Joe McCoglin, respectively. But who would you say is your number 4?
I definitely have to go with Cyril Gane. I mean, that guy is the shit. I've certainly watched him for a while, and his last fight against Junior Dos Santos proved that he deserves to be in and amongst the top 10 at heavyweight now. I mean, that guy's just legit, all-rounded, very, 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 very well-rounded fighter. He's versatile in every sort of aspect. His striking, he can knock you out in an instant. He can also compete on the mat. And again, it's the sort of same with Evloev earlier. What's not to like about him? He can do it all. And you see with the heavyweight division, they're either great at one thing, or they're either great at striking, or they're either great at wrestling. With Cyril Gane, he's great at wrestling and he's great at striking. And as a mixed martial artist in the 265-pound division, I don't think, name me one other fighter that's probably well-rounded as him in the heavyweight division. You could say Tom Aspinall if he wins his couple bouts, but I'm talking about top 10, top 15 right now. There's no one.
No.
You've got Blades, obviously, with his wrestling, but his striking is all right, but not there. Obviously, you've got Francis Ngannou. You literally name the top of the fighters at the top of your head, either striking or wrestling. With what you get with Cyril Garnett, you have both. And again, like I said, the fight with Junior Dos Santos showed that he deserves to be in and amongst the top 5, top 10 at heavyweight. And I cannot wait to see who he fights next, because come 2022, he could be in the mix for a title shot.
I'll let you go again, but who would you say is your fifth and obviously the final one for us to watch out for 2021?
This is it was a tough one for me, but I ended up going with Yuri Prochazka, because the way he finished Volkan Oezdemir in his UFC debut on Fight Island was just sensational. And he's expected to fight Dominic Reyes in the main event on February the 27th.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a real test for him, because although he's got experience in various promotions across Europe and Asia, he's only had one fight in the UFC, brilliant performance against Volkan Oezdemir. But to then step up even further against Dominic Reyes, who took John Jones to a decision, coming off of that unfortunate defeat to Jan Blachowicz. It's a real tough ask for Yuri Prochazka to perform, but if there's anyone that can do it against Dominic Reyes right now, it's definitely Yuri, because that man is very versatile in his striking approach, and it'll all come down to who's the better striker on the night. And I think Yuri will be that, has that little bit of edge, and maybe the bias within me because I've watched Yuri for some time now, but he is certainly legit at 205, and if he can get the job done against Dominic Reyes, again, 2 fights into the UFC roster, that puts him in the title frame. It's crazy, honestly. So my fifth and final one to watch this year has to be Yuri Prochazka.
Mine would be Lerone Murphy. Just as I said, 3 of mine are probably a bit biased, but Lerone's probably one of them as well. But he's like we were saying before the show. His first 2 fights, he's had 2 fights in the UFC, and as we know, you don't get an easy fight, but he couldn't have had more difficult ones for his first 2 fights. First fight, 3 weeks' notice to Barra to Hugo, then 4 weeks' notice for Fight Island last year against Ricardo Ramos, and now he's fighting on January 20th against Douglas Andrade. I just think if he can get the fights and if he can stay healthy, because I know he had an injury last year, I think it was his hand injury. If he can stay healthy and continues to fight, I think he could be well within rankings 2 or 3 fights in this year. I just think he's got the striking and he can wrestle as well. He's got the floor game and he's got the standing game. I think, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm going Lerone Murphy for my fifth and final one. But that's everything I had to add to today's episode. Do you have anything else you want to add into it?
No, mate, I'm all good here.
Well, cheers for joining us, everyone. This was the first episode of 2021, and as we said at the beginning, it's going to be a big year for the podcast. We're going to have some great guests, so hope you enjoy the show, and we look forward to the rest of the year. Cheers, guys.